It's interesting to go back and to look upon things from the perspective of March 1997. There are those diplomats and scientists who came up with this grand design, the treaty and the verification system and the regime. I don't think we understood the complexity of this grand design. I don't think anyone understood how much it would take in terms of efforts and intellectual capacity and money to put all that system in place. So it's a bit frightening to look back. What was the expectation back in March 1997? And this is where it might be interesting to have a fast forward, to go from 1997 to spring 2012 and to have a walk in time.
I started on the 17th of March 1997, and I've been here basically since the very first moment. The very first day was very, very interesting, but also very, we were all very nervous. We were exactly 9 new staff members on that day. We arrived and we all sort of stood in the hallway, introduced each other, and the offices were as empty as can be. There were only desks and tables and telephones. Everything else, there was nothing. No computers, no writing paper, no pens, nothing at all. So it was a very dry start, but it was ever so exciting because, you know, we were meeting new people and just the thought of a new organization. The most important factor for me was to help the executive secretary and the small staff we had to set up the organization and to get it working. And we were very lucky because I think that core group at the beginning, it's like we all kind of knew without really speaking to each other what tasks we had to do.
When I joined, there was no GCI network, and there was a sense, I remember, of wanting to do things fast. People were using the term like, time is of the essence, and we got to do things very quickly. In fact, the objective in the first year was to connect 30 IMS stations to the IDC. Well, we didn't accomplish that. It took quite a few years to reach 30, but then we reached 100 and 200, and there were celebrations. And another thing I can remember is the first time that an email passed over the GCI network. I was expecting to see data which on a monitor looks like letters and numbers all jumbled up. And I was quite surprised. The actual message that was sent was a quotation from Bertolt Brecht from the life of Galileo. And it said, I remember, unhappy is the land that has no heroes. And in the play, Galileo replies, no, unhappy is the land that needs heroes. And I thought that was very nice of that station end to send such a message, knowing that it would be the first to traverse the GCI network. For me, it felt like there was a sense that this is not a completely sterile environment. We work with data, which is without emotions and pretty dry, but this had a human side to it.
My former boss, Joachim Schulze, and I were the only IMS staff members for quite some months, I think. And we built up the IMS division until the other officers and finally also secretaries and the director came. There was a great pioneer feeling, and I was very lucky to have a supervisor who explained to me, first of all, the project and everything. We were very, very much involved, and I felt very blessed to be so much part of it. And I did just not have a task, I was really part of it, even in my position. And that that gave you the drive and the passion for the work. It's amazing when I look back how much I've learned, and in every respect, from the technical human part of view and the investment that was made into people and staff members, and the commitment that I saw in the work.
I think when I first started, there were roughly 5 staff in public information, and right now, including our consultants and GTAs and interns, we're probably 3 times the size. So we went from a little, garage, backyard kind of operation where everyone was working on one monitor to now evolving into a really quite impressive section. I think what sticks out to me the most is at the time I joined, there was really no corporate identity per se. And so one of the main tasks of the chief back then was to brand, give this organization a brand and put it on the map. And so by starting and launching about a year-long project, we underwent a complete transformation and launched an enhanced version of the old logo. That was, I found, to be a real important milestone in the history of the PI section. It's also very interesting to see that we've moved away from the UN logo that tries to put everything in the emblem, and we have the emblem plus our name, CTBTO. And that was intentional because CTBTO was not a name that anyone knew. We were completely new. We were the new kid on the block. We went from just an emblem, which was a symbol that you could see everywhere, to an emblem plus our acronym. And seeing that all over the place now, I think really heightened our presence.
I think what's been interesting is that we really started from, as I said, a political vision in the mind of world leaders, and our job was to turn this into reality. And some of these projects, these many dots on this wonderful map, may be dots for them, but they're quite a lot of work in turning them into real stations, which are operating 24/7 in most remote areas, in harsh conditions, sometimes in unmanned situations. So the first thing was take this challenge and work with a great team of engineers, scientists, logisticians, many languages, many backgrounds, adapting ourselves to the environments in which we were thrown in order to make this vision real. When I joined in 2005, it was at the infancy stage, and 6 years down the road, I found it an extremely mature organization that was capable of facing the challenges put forward, even those for which we were not supposed to be prepared, such as a Fukushima event, in which our system was probably critical at dealing with this emergency situation.
As an external relation officer, we had to talk to people that most of the time actually don't know what the CTBT is all about. So you basically have to start from zero, try to explain them what the treaty is all about, what we're doing, and what we can do for them, and what they can do for the treaty, and what they can do for the world, contributing to a nuclear weapon a free zone, or at least making sure that there is no more tests. And I remember in one of these missions that we had, I was sitting with the executive secretary. We were 3 of us on that mission, and the third person who was on the mission went to the bathroom, and he came with a delegate that we have been looking for. I mean, we have been trying to have a meeting for the last 3 days or so. After that, the executive secretary, of course, asked him, "But where did you meet the gentleman?" And he said, "Of course, in the bathroom." And the executive secretary said, "Wow, diplomacy happens everywhere, even in bathrooms." And I think this just shows that, I mean, our work is very technical and very scientific, but at the same time, there's a big human dimension which is attached to us. And also there's a commitment from everybody. For me, joining the CTBT, it was being part of something in making. And that was something that for me was important. Second, it was also being part of a system that, as I said earlier, puts everybody on equal footing, all countries. And it was a lot of excitement. I joined with a lot of enthusiasm, and I must say I wasn't disappointed.
Everything was new, and we went through all this sequence of events, you know, and it was the first site survey, the first station sending data to Vienna, the first GCI VSAT satellite antenna. These were the days of the first, and everything we were doing was the first, and we had to invent a lot of things from scratch. I really believe that the installation of the IMS has been tremendous and human, technical, technological, and maybe organizational, as I could say, an endeavor. The first phase of the installation of a station is to go and visit the site. So this is what we call the site survey, to identify and potential locations for the sensor and to assess the suitability of the site. And I have a special memory that I wanted to share with you. That's the site survey for 3 IMS stations at Tristan da Cunha. Tristan da Cunha is known as the most remote inhabited place in the world. So I think with just that description, it already gives you a sense of the challenge that we had ahead of us. I think we restarted in the beginning of 2001, and we went there in October, so it took about 8 months to do that, to get everything resolved, so which was quite fast. So we managed to get everything ready, and so we boarded the ship in Cape Town, and 5-6 days later we arrived in Tristan da Cunha.
I joined the organization June '97, when it still was creating, and in principle you couldn't find even a job to apply for because it was the initiation of the organization. Some private business brought me to Vienna, and I got in contact with the Spanish mission, where they told me that the urgent need for the UN was doctors in acoustics, and that happened to be my education. So in a matter of a week, I was in the organization. I was part of the hydroacoustic team, and started working in this place. The fact that you do a kind of scientific study on science, on propagation of the sound, and suddenly you see that this can be used for something that has a mission, that has a goal for the humanity, it was something that filled you of satisfaction. It makes you feel very, very good. It makes you feel proud of it. When we start, it was, I mean, every day was something different. You will come here without a proper program or what's going to happen during the day. And our initial task was to recognize the place where the stations were going to be located. I belong to the hydro group, and the location of the stations are in islands, and they are all related to the coast. I visit Ascension Island, that is also in the middle of the Atlantic. We went to Socorro Island, that is an archipelago in Mexico, very, very isolated. Then we went to Australia, where we have another station. And yeah, I visit Chile, where we have another station. All places has special memories, and very, very are locations that you will not go on your own.
My special memory in 2007 was the certification of Wake Island. We call it HA011. And it was the last hydroacoustic hydrophone station to be completed, so it meant our network contribution to the broader monitoring network was complete. And for me, it was a very proud moment. We'd suffered some serious challenges to installing this station. We got halfway there with the shore station, and then a typhoon, a cyclone, came through and wiped out most of the island infrastructure, and it delayed our program a year or a year and a half. But with the persistence and goodwill, we managed to get the station installed. And finally, when we got the certification and the certificate, which I have a copy on my wall in the office, that sort of, we've done it. We've got there. one of my strong motivations for actually applying for the position back in 2004 was the chance to make a difference for my children, I thought. And I still believe that. We make progress every year, and we're closer and closer and closer to completing the network. And once it's fully in place and operating 24/7, I think we'll make the world a slightly safer place.
I didn't know what it was all about, but the idea to be working with scientists in something to deal with peace made my perspective much bigger. Slowly I understood that the CTBTO is not only a treaty, but it is about peace, about understanding other people, about understanding other cultures, to just reach a common agreement. But still, when we arrived here, there were no means of procurement, no financial regulations really in place. So, like giving you an example, the first site survey that took place in the infrasound group was with no equipment. It was with no official travel. So my colleagues, since they were doers from the first day, they decided to just take their own car and just go and estimate the measurements. And this is really how we did business the first days. And the first contract for a site survey was only 3 pages long. Now you compare it, it's a bit longer.
Along these walls, we have the photos of the Secretariat team for each and every year. Already in 1998, India and Pakistan tested. In 1999, the US Senate failed to ratify the treaty. In 2004, devastating tsunami happened in the Indian Ocean region. In 2006, North Korea tested, and in 2006 and 2007 there was a major restructuring of the organization. In 2008 we were doing a major on-site inspection simulation, and in 2009 North Korea tested again, and the financial global meltdown happened, affecting us as well in 2009 and 2010, and in 2011 Fukushima, the major devastation of the earthquake and the tsunami and the release of the radionuclide at the power plant posed a challenge. Of course, the biggest ongoing challenge is to bring this treaty and this regime in force. But if I look back, and if I look back personally, of course, the biggest challenge was the sum of all the challenges of carrying out a grand design and carrying out this grand design against all the odds.
When I joined, the American administration had changed and had decided that it wasn't, at least at that point, going to pursue the ratification of the agreement, and other states had not been completely rapid in their provision of their assessed contributions. And so when I first came here as the director of the administration division, we had some difficulties with full financing. So we had to cut back on some of the program for several years. The obvious primary wish is that the 8 states that have yet to ratify the agreement quickly come to the conviction that it's in both their best interest and in the best interest of the international community that they take the necessary steps to ratify the agreement so that it can enter into force. So I would hope that over the course of the next couple of years, that would be my fondest hope, that the 8 states do take those actions, and that, let's say, before the 20th anniversary, well before, if possible, the agreement enters into force, so that there won't be a 20th anniversary, but rather the 1st, 2nd, 3rd anniversary of the actual technical secretariat and the test ban organization as a whole.
I joined when the international monitoring system was completed up to 70% or around that rate. And there had been a large effort put in building the system. People really working very hard but focused on building the system. When I joined, there was an awareness, a realization that, hey, now we have to operate the system. The system is here to produce data and products. And although the treaty had not entered into force, there was a need to start testing and doing provisional operations. So there was this paradigm shift from building to testing the system, which was also focused around this first system-wide performance test. So it was a big revolution that took place from mid-2004 to almost 2006, when there was one evaluation of the system. The interest of member states was shifted towards seeing the results, seeing the products, looking at the quality of the data, the availability, whether the products were delivered as frequently as they were meant to be delivered.
The biggest change in terms of the job I've been doing is the amount of equipment we have and the level of sophistication of the procedures and how far we've come in terms of working out what we need to do and how far we've come in terms of actually doing it. In 2008 we had a really big exercise, an on-site inspection exercise in Kazakhstan, which had maybe up to 50 tons or over 50 tons of equipment, and we had a base camp that we had to set up for about over 100 people, for observers and inspectors and the rest of it. I was heavily involved in that in terms of procuring the camp for everybody, and also organising transportation of the camp there and helping to set up the camp and looking after it while we were there, which was a big challenge. They asked me to go to Tristan da Cunha for 2 or 3 months to set up the station there with some IMS colleagues, and that was also a very exciting time because we went out by ship, and I went out with someone from Alfred Kramer from IMS on the RMS St Helena, which was a British mail ship, and it was its final voyage to Tristan da Cunha. So we met the governor of the Atlantic Territories on the boat and his wife, and I think 5-night, 6-day trip out there, and then I spent 2.5 months on the island, and I'm still very friendly with the islanders out there. So I've been so involved in it for 10 years now, it's become just part of what I do, but I still can see the significance of it, and especially being a geologist, and I have a sense of the whole world, the geographical world, because I think of the world like that through my work.
There was this buzz in the air, there was this excitement, you know, you could almost touch it, because in May of that same year, Kazakhstan had just ratified the treaty. And also in May, when I also joined, not just Kazakhstan, but this very small aperture terminals which transmit data from the IMS to the IDC. The 100th one had just been installed in Namibia, so I felt anyway, that there was this excitement that the treaty was going to enter into force. In 2002, there were very few women in management positions, and now we have 2 directors who are women, and this speaks, I think, also to management that they've constantly pursued having women in top positions, in top management positions. So this is definitely something that's different from when I first joined.
I've seen the organization expand and grow, and of course myself, I grew up professionally a lot inside the organization. I was fortunate that I have been actually on every single on-site inspection exercise since the beginning. So I was fortunate to be on 6 continents, on maybe 40-something countries that we have visited, and from being chased by a kangaroo to freezing in the in Kazakhstan, in the desert there. The first exercise we had in the on-site inspection was in Kazakhstan, and for communications, all what we had were 2 walkie-talkies. That's all what we had, and the walkie-talkies would not work more than 300 meters apart. A couple of years ago, we did an exercise in Jordan, and we had about 1 ton of equipment with us, and we can communicate anywhere in the world freely without any obstacles. So there is actually a huge improvement in the field of communications. And we have the latest equipment, the best technology, and we can be proud of that. We have grown a lot. We have now a vast experience. We have experts from all around the world that we are working together for, and I think we grew up very nicely.
It was very, very exciting. It was probably the most important 5 years of my professional career, the most interesting because we were creating a new organization. We had opportunities to start from scratch and to meet new colleagues, put our heads together, work together as a team, and develop an organization that would meet the treaty requirements. And I remember at the time, of course, up until then, people were thinking about getting the PTS started, but now we had to shift gears and start thinking about where would we be in 5 years. And a lot of us spent time together just talking, and you go home at night and you sleep on it and you try to come up with new ideas. And I remember Peter Basham, he was our senior seismic officer, and he came into the office one day waving a napkin saying, I did it, I know what the future looks like. And he had his napkin with his coffee stains, and he had a little graph that showed the cost of the building up all the IMS stations, and then he had another line showing the cost going down over time and the cost of the post-certification activities going up. And that was back in '97, before that was really conceived and thought about, and it proves pretty accurate now. I came back in 2007 as a consultant in the administrative division, and I was really quite amazed at the transition and the development that the agency had undergone.
In the early years, people were really excited about the technical verification regime. We were building something new that was never in place. For example, noble gas and the infrasound that was not so operational at that time. Of course, the momentum was slowing down a little bit after the first years, but we still feel the same kind of spirit here, especially when we are bringing some new technologies online. For example, noble gas that was introduced in the operations this year, and also the infrasound and its development over the past years. Over the years, we have seen how well the system has been working. I remember I was in the working group B in the very time when India and Pakistan committed their nuclear events. And actually IDC was not yet operational at that time, but they were able to produce real-time data and the results for us. And this was really a sign for us that yes, this is really what we want. It was well demonstrated in 2006 and 2009 as well, as the TPRK made their announced tests. It's very difficult to select one highlight because there has been so many during the past of the CTBTO. But I would say that these nuclear tests that we were able to detect, they were really the highlights of this organization, because that's why we are here.
I mean, it was all very spontaneous in the beginning. We had to invent things. There were no rules there the first time. We didn't know how to buy, how to procure things, what were the rules, who to approach. So quite often we just improvised, and that changed a lot, of course. Now we have very clear structures. But of course, it was also very flexible in the beginning. I mean, you could accomplish a lot. That was really amazing, because there was also very little hierarchy in the beginning. I started as a G6, as a technician. Quite often I had to be officer in charge for the section because we were so few people there. But of course at that time it was all completely new, nothing existed. And while I'm from the radionuclide field, in that technology, nobody ever has tried this before, to set up a network, a radionuclide network globally in remote sites. Radionuclide technology before was, or is still, mainly a laboratory technology. There was a wide open field, and it was just there for us to create something.
We starting at our new financial system, so-called IMIS, in January 1st, 2005. And that's actually, yes, I am working as a budget implementation officer. And yes, that has a big impact on my job. Before we have IMIS, we usually produce our financial reports, our implementation reports in Excel spreadsheets. And that's, of course, time consuming. And then the data that we have been sending to all divisions, it's been delayed, or not exactly delayed, but what we call prolonged, you know, like in 2 weeks in their statement. Once we have the system, IMIS, we automate all the reports, financial reports and implementation reports, whereby all divisions can print their own report in overnight data. And that's improving a lot on their implementation rates in their spending. I am a golfer, so I play golf, and I always joined agency games on behalf of PTS, and I have been also supported by our ES, and he always sending us a nice message and welcome back. And after we come back, and we have always a party from staff councils, and all those is very enjoyable.
One of the things that I am proud of have worked for this organization is the values that this organization stands for. The mission statement is something that I, as a Costa Rican, cherish. We are a country of peace. We are a country which got rid of the army in 1949, and it was written in the Constitution that we shall never have an army. So it's a very peaceful country. So non-proliferation and disarmament is something that is in my genes. The two North Korean events were a milestone in the work. We began to provide member states information. It was a real test for the system itself. We had stations installed, about 65 or 60% of the stations in 2006, and then we have more stations in 2009. And we could see the difference between what it makes for the system, the amount of stations that we install. And then the ultimate test was the Japan earthquake and the Fukushima accident, which created, I would say, a stress test to the whole verification regime, especially for the IMS network and for the IDC, because of the amount of data, the capacity we had to assume in those days under provisional operations, the dedicated work of this wonderful staff that we have, that no matter what time that we're here working, night and day. And then you see this system performing to a level that I think when we began the first certification in 2000, nobody could dream. And it's important to know that the system can do much more than was originally envisioned to do or to perform. So this for me is the top of my professional career, and I feel so blessed by having this opportunity to have worked for this organization. And no matter what I do in the future, no matter where I am, I will always be a friend and a supporter of the CTBT and the CTBTO.
Since I've joined CTBTO, and up to now, you feel that team spirit. Not even just team, it's like a family spirit. We're doing something noble, and I think everybody or most people feel it. And so there's a sense of togetherness, a family doing something for a good cause. From the perspective of CTBTO, for me, being not just a workplace, but a place where we have some kind of a family, I associate some events with kind of family and work. For instance, when I gave birth to my daughter back in 2002, I notified so many of the staff members, and it felt like an extended family, all congratulating, all being happy with me, for me. But a sad event that I do remember was 9/11. But again, it brought in this sense of family, because when it happened and word spread, it felt like we were as one, kind of under attack, all mourning, grieving, all in shock. It just had that feeling back then, and it's kind of still even really very clear in my mind somehow.
The reason we are where we are is this quality of the community of the test-ban treaty family. So that's the reason why you find this face of this community wherever you go, whether you are walking in the corridor here, whether you are taking a publication of this organization or a calendar of the organization. This is an amazing team.
Happy birthday, dear CTBTO. Happy birthday to